I need to be honest with you. There are 3 items sitting on the shelves of your local grocery store right now. Total cost, $4. Combined, they trigger a biological chain reaction in the white-tailed deer so powerful that it forces mature, nocturnal bucks to break every survival instinct they have and step into the open while the sun is still up. $4, not $400. Not the $75 designer seed blend with a 200-inch buck on the label that Cabela's put at eye level last September. $4. From the same aisle where you buy your soup. And yet, for the last few seasons, you've been dumping hundreds, maybe thousands, into proprietary food plot seeds, synthetic attractants, and magic mineral powders in a shiny camo bag, only to watch the biggest bucks on your property go completely nocturnal. Your trail cameras light up at 2 a.m., your stand sits empty at last light, and every spring, you order another bag, because the industry told you that this year's formula is the one that finally works. You are not unlucky. You are being managed. You are the product of a multi-billion-dollar hunting industry that engineers your frustration so it can sell you the cure. Your grandfather never bought a single bag of genetically modified forage seed in his life. He never needed it. He walked his land, he read the soil, and he put bone on the wall with knowledge that the industry buried the moment they figured out how to put a price tag on dirt. What the industry buried is exactly what this video is about to hand you. For $4. We are going to dive deep into the hard science of cervid nutrition. We are going to unearth ethnobotanical history from Native American hunting grounds. And we are going to build a microplot that acts as a biological tractor beam, pulling monster bucks straight out of their nocturnal fortress and anchoring them in your kill zone in broad daylight. This is HuntForge.
And everything you thought you knew about food plots is about to change.
Let us talk about the elephant in the room. What the industry doesn't want you to know is that their entire business model relies on you believing that you can buy a shortcut to a mature buck. They push food in a bag that promises instant results, but deliberately ignores the long-term biological requirements of the herd. They want you spending $75 instead of $4 for a simple, science-backed solution that actually works. They want you confused. They want you cycling through a new product every October because confused hunters are repeat customers. To understand why this $4 hack works, you first have to understand the ecological crisis happening in modern hunting lands. Today's landscape is heavily fragmented. As habitats get broken into smaller and smaller parcels, deer movement becomes entirely dictated by island resources, tiny pockets of high-value food surrounded by low-value development or over-mature, closed canopy forests that provide absolutely zero ground-level forage. White-tailed deer are what biologists call concentrate selectors. Because of their 4-chambered ruminant stomach, they do not just eat anything. They actively prioritize the consumption of high-nutrient, easily digestible plant parts over high-fiber, woody browse. When these high-quality resources are scarce or scattered, mature bucks adopt a high-security, nocturnal movement strategy to minimize their risk of predation while still meeting their metabolic demands. Traditional scouting tells you to find rubs, locate scrapes, find tracks, and reverse engineer the travel routes back to a bedding area. But in a highly fragmented environment where food sources are ephemeral and constantly changing, this strategy falls apart. A buck might hit an oak ridge hard during an acorn drop, but the second that mast is consumed, he shifts his home range, leaving you sitting over a dead stand. Here is the truth the $75 seed bags will never print on their label. If you want to create a consistent,
daylight kill zone, you cannot rely on scattered natural browse. You must establish a nutritional gravity well, a hotspot so biologically dense and irresistible that it forces that nocturnal buck to deviate from his standard, security-first movement patterns. And the ingredients for that gravity well are not in the hunting aisle. They are in the grocery store for $4.
So, what exactly is this $4 grocery hack? It is a precise mixture of 3 everyday items: sugar beets, dried beans, and pearl barley. The science is simple, but it is incredibly profound. This combination addresses the 3 fundamental pillars of whitetail nutrition: rapid-release energy, protein synthesis, and rumen stabilization. The hunting industry sells you 3 separate products at $25 each to hit these same pillars. We are going to hit all 3 with one trip to the soup aisle. Let us break down exactly why this specific trio is so devastatingly effective. First, sugar beets, making up 40% of the mix. Unlike common table beets, sugar beets are biologically bred for massive sucrose concentrations, reaching up to 18% sucrose content by dry weight. They represent the absolute peak of energy density in the cervid diet. In the late season, when a buck's fat reserves are depleted from the rut and cold weather is setting in, energy becomes the most critical nutrient for survival. The biological mechanism of attraction here is twofold. The leafy greens provide immediate carbohydrates in the early fall, and the subterranean tuber acts as an energy storehouse. Here is the absolute kicker. When a hard frost hits, it triggers an enzymatic conversion within the beet's root, breaking complex polysaccharide starches into highly palatable, simple sugars, primarily glucose and fructose. A deer's 297 million olfactory receptors can detect this molecular change from extraordinary distances, drawing them from across your property line. And while that frost is working its chemistry on your beet roots for free, the hunting industry is selling you a bag of late-season attractant for $39.99 that contains, check the ingredient label, sugar beet pulp as the first ingredient. The exact same compound, repackaged, marked up 900%. Second, dried legumes, specifically pinto beans or split peas right off the soup aisle, making up 30% of the hack. This is the protein synthesis foundation. Antler growth is one of the most explosive physiological events in the animal kingdom, generating up to ½ an inch of new bone tissue per day, and growing velvet antler tissue is comprised of approximately 80% protein on a dry matter basis. To maximize a buck's genetic potential for antler size, research consistently proves that a 16% crude protein diet is the gold standard. Instead of buying astronomically priced forage peas from a hunting brand, the same peas, by the way, repackaged from the same agricultural supplier, except now they are in a bag with antlers on it, soaking and broadcasting retail-grade dried beans provides the exact same digestible nitrogen and amino acids required for muscle repair and massive antler development. Same Pisum sativum species, same protein profile. One costs $4, the other costs $45. Finally, the remaining 30% is pearl barley. Barley is a cool-season small grain that serves as the structural and digestive component of this hack. When deer consume excessive amounts of high-sugar tubers or corn, the volatile fatty acid concentration in their rumen spikes, dropping the pH below 5.5 and leading to a potentially fatal condition called subacute ruminal acidosis. Barley provides the necessary structural fiber to maintain stable rumen pH between 6.2 and 6.8, buffering their digestive system. On top of that, barley is incredibly winter hardy, providing a lush green-up in the early spring, which is the exact critical window when mature bucks desperately need to rebuild body mass lost during the brutal winter rut. 3 items, 3 biological pillars, $4, and not a single hunting brand logo in sight.
Now, this methodology was not invented in a YouTube studio. It has deep historical roots, and the people who understand it best are the ones the industry hopes you never hear from. Meet Arthur Vance, a retired chief wildlife biologist and master land manager with 42 years of field experience working across the eastern woodlands. Dr. Vance spent decades analyzing deer behavior on fragmented private and public land, but his greatest breakthrough did not come from a modern laboratory. It came from studying Native American ethnobotany. Dr. Vance discovered that indigenous tribes, such as the Cheyenne, practiced a highly advanced system known as old field management. Long before modern agriculture, they manipulated the environment to intentionally favor the growth of specific seeds and tubers, effectively creating natural kill plots to concentrate game animals right outside their settlements. Their ultimate weapon, a native vining legume known scientifically as Apios americana, commonly called the American groundnut or Indian potato. Dr. Vance noted, "When we analyzed the groundnut, we were stunned. The tuber is exceptionally high in protein. It grows from rhizomatous tubers, and those tubers remain viable in freezing soil all winter long." The modern hunting industry buried this knowledge. Why? Because native perennials like the groundnut do not require you to come back every single year to buy new bags of seed, expensive fertilizers, and proprietary herbicides. A plant that feeds deer forever is the worst possible product for a company that needs you to reorder every September. But Dr. Vance is a scientist. His authority is the laboratory and the peer-reviewed page. To see what this science looks like in the mud, meet Ray Colvin. Ray is a 58-year-old land manager out of southern Illinois who has been running microplots on a 160-acre lease for 19 seasons. No tractor, no commercial seed dealer, just grocery store ingredients and a hand rake. When asked what happened the first year he switched from a $600 commercial food plot program to a sugar beet, bean, and barley mix, Ray said 7 words that should haunt every seed company executive in the country. The bucks came back before the does did. In year 2, his trail cameras logged a 340% increase in daylight mature buck activity on his microplots compared to his old commercial plots 200 yards away. Same property, same deer, different food. This $4 grocery hack, using the sugar beet for high sucrose subterranean energy, the beans for high-protein vines, and the barley for cold weather resilience, is a direct modern replication of that ancient indigenous groundnut strategy. We are biologically hacking the deer's primal instinct to seek out these exact macronutrients. The Cheyenne understood this 1,000 years ago. The industry buried it, and a $4 trip to the grocery store just dug it back up. If you are still skeptical, let us look at the hard, undeniable university data. Data the hunting industry prays you never read. For decades, TV hunting hosts have preached that culling and genetic management are the only ways to grow monster bucks. They tell you to shoot every spike and every fork horn. They tell you genetics are destiny. But a landmark study led by Dr. Stephen Demaray and the research team at the Mississippi State University Deer Lab, a man who has spent over 30 years studying cervid population dynamics, completely shattered that myth. Dr. Demaray wanted to answer one question that the hunting industry prayed he would never ask. What actually dictates antler size, genetics, or nutrition? The team took wild, pregnant does from the lower coastal plain, a region known for terrible soil quality and notoriously small deer, and brought them to a captive facility.
They then fed the offspring a highly nutritious, optimum 16% crude protein diet. The first generation showed a modest improvement, but the second generation, the grandsons of those small wild deer, experienced what biologists call an epigenetic leap. These second-generation bucks, raised on optimal nutrition, saw their body weights increase by a staggering 36 pounds, and their antler scores explode by 28 inches, a 32% improvement over their wild grandfathers. Let that sink in. Bucks that were supposedly genetically inferior grew bodies and antlers that rivaled the absolute largest deer in the state purely because of a consistent, high-protein diet. The MSU researchers proved that generations of poor nutrition act like an epigenetic off switch on antler growth genes. By providing high-quality forage, you are literally flipping that genetic switch back on. And here is what makes this personal. Every time you bought a $75 commercial seed blend that underperformed, every time you blamed your property's genetics for small racks,
Every time a hunting show told you to cull harder, the real answer was sitting on a grocery store shelf for $4. The industry did not want you to know that, because a hunter who understands epigenetics is a hunter who stops buying their products. When you build a highly nutritious kill plot using this $4 hack, you are not just attracting deer for a quick shot. You are permanently altering the epigenetic destiny of your local herd. Furthermore, behavioral studies testing the optimal foraging theory prove that deer possess partial selection capabilities. During periods of extreme cold, when ambient temperatures drop below 20 degrees Fahrenheit and thermoregulatory energy costs spike by up to 40%, deer consistently bypass available protein to selectively forage for high-energy carbohydrates. By planting sugar beets, you are providing a high sucrose magnet exactly when they need it most, making your kill zone the most biologically attractive piece of real estate in the county. So, how does this actually execute in the field? You do not need a massive tractor or a 5-acre field. In fact, a massive field is the enemy of a day-like mature buck. And this is another lie the food plot industry sells you, that bigger is better. Bigger means more seed bags, more fertilizer, more equipment rental, more money in their pockets, not more venison in your freezer. Step 1. Strategic sighting and microhabitat selection. Mature bucks are incredibly reluctant to expose themselves in large, open agricultural fields during daylight hours. We want to create a microplot, an area no larger than 20 by 20 feet, tucked deep into a transition zone between heavy bedding cover and their primary nighttime destination fields. By placing the grocery hack in a secluded, thick staging area, we provide the buck with a psychological sense of security. He feels safe enough to get up from his bed, browse this high-value food source, and stage up while the sun is still casting shadows. Step 2. Soil preparation and bio-drilling. Take a heavy rake or a hand tiller and clear the thatch down to the bare mineral soil. You do not need heavy plows, and this is critical, because the sugar beets and barley perform a natural function called bio-drilling. Their deep tap roots, some reaching 18 to 24 inches, and fibrous root systems naturally break up compacted soil, improving aeration and water infiltration naturally. The industry sells you a $200 soil amendment kit for this exact function. The barley root does it for free. Step 3. Soaking and seeding. This is a crucial pro tip. Take your dried grocery store beans and soak them in a bucket of water for 12 to 24 hours prior to planting. This accelerates the germination process dramatically by activating the enzymatic hydrolysis of the seed coat. Broadcast your soaked beans, barley, and beet seeds over the exposed soil. Step 4. The shape of death. Do not just broadcast seeds in a random circle.
Plant the mix in a distinct V or L shape. Position the point of the V so that it faces directly toward your tree stand or ground blind. Deer are edge followers. They will naturally feed along the lines of the vegetation, funneling them perfectly into the pinch point. This literally steers the buck into a perfectly broadside, close-range bow shot. No $500 trail camera system needed. No $300 cellular cam subscription. Just geometry, biology, and $4.
Now, establishing the plot is only half the battle.
How we monitor it is what separates the amateurs from the master hunters. And this is where the industry gets you a second time, selling you cellular trail cameras that cost $40 a month in data fees and demand that you check your phone every 6 hours like a dopamine addict. Low-impact scouting is the rule. The fastest way to ruin a brand new kill zone is to walk in there every 3 days to check a trail camera. Every time you cross that threshold, you leave ground scent, approximately 3 billion skin cells per hour and a cocktail of volatile fatty acids that a buck's 297 million olfactory receptors read like a neon warning sign. You educate that mature buck, and an educated buck is a nocturnal buck, permanently. We operate on a strict 30-day timeline. Phase 1. Days 1 to 10, the initial discovery. As the seeds germinate, the scent of the freshly disturbed, bio-drilled soil begins to draw in local does and young bucks. This is exactly what we want. Whitetails are highly social creatures. The presence of these younger deer acts as a biological all-clear signal. They become your confidence deer, signaling to the older, mature bucks hiding in the thicket that this new staging area is not only nutrient-rich, but safe. Phase 2. Days 11 to 20, the nutritional anchor. By week 2, the beans and barley are sprouting rapidly, producing visible vines rich in crude protein. Your trail camera will show a dramatic shift. Deer will stop just passing through and will start making targeted, deliberate visits. You will see bucks establishing a daily routine, hitting the microplot to graze on the high-protein bean vines before heading out to larger fields after dark. Phase 3. Days 21 to 30. The monster emerges. This is the climax. By the 30-day mark, the plot has reached its peak attraction. The sugar beets are swelling with sucrose. The beans are loaded with digestible nitrogen. The barley's providing the fiber buffer that keeps them coming back without digestive distress. The monster buck, the dominant, ghost-like king of the property who usually only shows up on camera at 3 a.m., will step out. He recognizes the immense caloric value of the sugar beets and the protein of the beans, and he will attempt to aggressively claim the resource for himself. Your camera will capture him in the staging area, making mock scrapes, licking branches, and defending the zone in broad daylight. The hack has successfully pulled him out of his impenetrable bedding area, broken his nocturnal habits, and anchored him directly in your kill zone. $4 did what $600 worth of commercial seed could not.
Now, this video must touch on the legal and ethical side of this. Because unlike the hunting brands that bury their disclaimers in microscopic font on the back of the bag, HuntForge does not hide the fine print. With the spread of chronic wasting disease, many states have rightfully placed strict bans on baiting, meaning you cannot dump massive piles of corn or apples on the ground. Dumping piles of bait forces unnatural congregation, increasing the risk of disease transmission through saliva at a single contaminated feeding point. This is not opinion. This is epidemiology. But understand this. The $4 hack is not a bait pile. It is an agronomic crop.
Because you are planting these seeds into the soil and growing a legitimate microplot, the deer forage naturally across the vegetation rather than eating nose to nose out of a single contaminated pile. In almost every state, planting a wildlife management crop is perfectly legal, highly ethical, and actually aligns with state conservation goals to improve herd nutrition without spreading disease. Always check your local regulations, but know that managing the soil and growing food is the highest form of land stewardship. The Cheyenne understood this. Your grandfather understood this. And now, you understand it too.
Before you close out, think about something. Thousands of years before any corporation put a price tag on a bag of seed, a Cheyenne hunter knelt in the dirt outside his camp. He pressed a groundnut tuber into the soil with his bare hands. No brand name, no barcode, no marketing department. Just a man, the earth, and an understanding of what the animal needed. Your grandfather did the same thing. He did not need a glossy catalog. He walked his land. He read the soil. He planted what worked. And when November came, he put meat in the freezer and bone on the wall. Not because he bought the most expensive product on the shelf, but because he carried knowledge that no corporation could sell him, and no corporation could take away. Today, you carry that same knowledge. You understand rumen biology. You understand epigenetic nutrition. You understand that $4 worth of sugar beets, beans, and barley can outperform a $75 designer blend, not because a YouTube channel told you so, but because Dr. Vance's 42 years in the field, Ray Colvin's 19 seasons of microplot data, and the Mississippi State Deer Lab proved it in black and white. But here is what the industry is counting on. They are counting on you forgetting this by next week. They are counting on the algorithm burying this video so deep that the next hunter never finds it. They are counting on us losing this knowledge the same way we lost the groundnut. Quietly, one generation at a time. Do not let them win. Hit subscribe right now, not for this channel, not for a number on a screen, but as a line in the dirt that says this knowledge survives. Share this with one hunter in your life who is still pouring money into bags with a buck on the label. And drop a comment below. Tell us what your grandfather planted. Tell us what he knew. Because those stories are the real hunter's vault, and they are disappearing faster than any of us want to admit. We are HuntForge. We do not buy our success. We forge it with science, with heritage, and with dirt under our fingernails. See you in the woods.